Chris, thanks for joining me.
Hey, absolutely. Thanks for coming out, Reed.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, hey, you guys have been a customer of ours since I think 1999.
Yeah.
Which is crazy.
Yeah, almost 30 years.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit about Cosney Wagner and what you guys do here.
Yeah, so we're celebrating 60 years this year, so which is a huge milestone. The company was started by my grandpa and his business partner, and my grandpa is still around, and he sticks his head in my door every once in a while and make sure we're doing our jobs. But no, so we started out as a civil and commercial contractor, which is pretty unique, and we still do that today. And the split is basically 50-50. My dad still around. He's the president. My uncle's here, and so it's truly a family business that we're very proud of. And yeah, right now we're at a really good point in our trajectory, and we're growing.
That's great.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I think what interests me about like you guys and what you do, and especially you too, is that you're a third generation in the family business.
Yeah.
I'm a third generation in the family business. My, Bangor was started by my dad and my grandpa in 1983. So we're like, I think 18 years behind you or something like that.
Yeah, right.
But, catching up almost, I think we're 42 this year.
Okay.
And so I think you and I kind of share some of the similar challenges that others in our position face when, you're transitioning from one generation to the next generation.
Yeah.
And one of those things is technology, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So, there's certainly a big load, right? I've heard it been coined, I'm the SOB, the son of boss. And that's a tough one to carry around, but at a certain point you got to move forward. In my position as CFO, I had a lot of great mentors moving into this position. Yeah. And one of the things, we worked in the old Sage 300 system, and we were super comfortable with it. It was great, but it was evident that eventually this switch needed to happen. And that's what, we talked to you and we moved forward from there. Yeah.
I think it was like a LinkedIn message and you're like, hey, I think we need to do that.
Yeah. Well, I saw you at the CFMA event and I was like, you know what? And my dad, he actually was asking me all sorts of AI questions. So I'm like, I don't know. I was like, And then I saw you kept posting about AI. I was like, let's just have Reed come in and see what he has to say. So I did not go into that conversation thinking that let's get a new ERP, but it happened, and I'm very happy and very grateful for all the work that you guys have put together just to get us to this point.
That's awesome. Going back to the generational thing, right? Like you said, SOB, like son of the boss, that kind of thing. Yeah. Like I feel that pressure too, right? I think it's one of those things where you feel almost like I got to come in a little bit early, I got to leave a little bit late, I got to work a little bit extra harder just to make sure that everybody knows that I'm here for the success of the company and the team, right?
Yeah. Yeah. You don't want to fumble the bag, right? And because you hear countless stories of every generation, the success rate goes down. So
12%.
Yeah. Okay. So you have that on hand.
Yes. So second to third generation, 12% of businesses survive.
So everyone tells me that. So it just puts more pressure on you, but that's motivation too.
Yeah. So if you're like me, I assume like you were probably running around here when you were a little kid, right?
Yeah. So I started kind of working in the shop a little bit and, finding my way there, and eventually made my way into the office. Working in pre-con for a little while, and then eventually finding my way into the accounting world, and worked as controller, and then our CFO of 30 plus years, who originally integrated the Sage 300 system. He retired, and then eventually found my way
into that seat.
Yeah.
I think I remember I cleaned the office at one point in time. I was this high when I told my grandma, "Oh, I'm never going to come into this business.
Yeah, right.
I'm not going to do this." And then here I am, 30 years later, and basically running the business. So
yeah, right.
Do you find, so you did pre-con, you've done estimating, like for myself, we when I came in about 2018, 2019, in 2019, we kind of had our own, I don't want to say accounting crisis, but we had, our books weren't in the place where we wanted them to be. And so I spent like a month of nights, weekends, all day, just, fixing the books. Do you feel like, you've done pre-con, you've done all these other positions. Do you feel like the accounting is really giving you the full picture of the business?
Yeah, really, I think I understood, the whole system very well. But not until we made the switch is I'm like, and that was kind of one of the selling points too, is I'm like, okay, I know the system, I can do a little bit here and there, but at the end of the day, I'm relying on you guys to write these reports, to do these customizations. And a lot of our customers now they're requesting, these specific, very specific reports, and that I don't have the expertise to know how to write code and do all this stuff. So now I'm at the ground level because I'm implementing this system, and now I know, we're officially live, and now I can write any report. I'm on the ground level and understand at a much higher magnitude than I did before.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's exactly how I felt. I felt like walking into it, I felt like a little bit unqualified, maybe even. Yeah. And not saying that was your case, because obviously you went to school for it. But I felt like, oh man, I got to get a grasp on what we really do here, and that just seeing what was coming in, what was coming out, where it was going, how it was being, how we were utilizing people's time, all that kind of stuff. It really getting the accounting system in place and up to snuff was like the master class and all of that for me.
When you dive into the nuts and bolts of the accounting system, that is the playbook of how the company operates, how everything runs. It's like now you fully understand everything, and no, it's great.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, so one of the big things that I did when I came into the company was we had this sort of mantra. It's called digital first. And now it almost needs to be AI first. And actually, I think we're getting hats made, so it's going to be awesome. I'll send you one when I get it. But really, this sort of idea of, hey, we're kind of stuck in the past, right? And I think you guys were with 300 as well. It's a legacy system. It's on premise. There's limited updates, all that kind of stuff to that program nowadays. Kind of maybe tell me a little bit about, what were some of your goals and your hopes when you guys implemented Intacct, and obviously when you look at technology now?
Yeah. So when you're working in an old system like 300, it's great for what you need it for. And, if you know where to find the reports, it's great, but it's very static. There's no ability to drill down and see more information and see where it flowed through. So when we moved to Intacct, you're able to fully see the whole system, in one breath, really.
Because you're able to go in and out, and you don't have to go through different multiple windows and screens and stuff like that.
Yeah, it's one home for everything too. And what I'm finding more and more as we further get into it is, okay, I want to put more and more into this, because we've got various spreadsheets for various administrative things and various HR type items. And I'm like, why can't we just put it in Intacct, and just make this like our single source of truth? That's huge for me.
That's awesome. Yeah. So many, when I came in, I remember so many different things were being done in sort of separate systems. They weren't all together. You couldn't, if we wanted to run a report on sales, for instance, we'd have to go to 3 different systems or 4 different systems to try to piece that information together. And I think you're finding that having that data all in one place is super valuable for when you think about the future too.
Yeah. And being in accounting, we're never going to get rid of Excel, right? Right. And so that's where you guys came in and you were like, well, let's use Velixo, right? Yeah. And so we've already started, implementing some of that, and just the connections between, you basically, just put an equation in there, and, it's directly pulling all your information into Excel, where 300, to get anything to Excel was export to PDF and then
A labor of...
It was terrible. Yeah.
So this conversation really started back in April of last year, and it was because of AI, right? I mean, it was sort of I think we'd both gone to a CFMA event, and they were talking about AI and construction and how that is evolving and developing. And so one of the primary drivers for making this switch was Sage's investment in AI too.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's where it's like, do you want to be an early adopter, or a late adopter? Where do you land in there? I don't really view it in that term. When we were making this decision to do this, is it the right decision for the company? At the end of the day, it was. And I think some of the AI capabilities and all that are just an added plus to it.
That's awesome. So Cosney's been around for 60 years.
Yeah.
You're moving into... I assume at some point you'll probably be the president. I don't know. Who knows?
That would be the goal. That would be the goal. Hopefully, if I'm lucky enough someday.
What's the next 60 look like?
Yeah. So, I think I really think about it, and hopefully, I don't have to implement a new ERP in a long time. But hopefully, Intact is around and gives us I think it really does give us the ability to grow. So, one of the things that we were discussing while considering whether we wanted to implement or not was the fact of, hey, we are growing, and some of the just workflows that we have set up are becoming very cumbersome, and so what do we need to do to be more efficient overall and give us the abilities to where if we want to grow, we have the ability to. We have an interesting model, I guess I would call it, is we're really not revenue driven. We're strictly profit margin. And being in that sort of model, there's going to be some years that you go up, some years you go down. We're not chasing, high revenue.
Well, that's exactly how we are too, actually, because it's funny because I remember, just when I was first coming into the business and thinking about it, and you've got competitors on our end that they're doing 10 million or 20 million or $100 million a year, or whatever it may be, and you're looking at you're looking at it like, how do we get there? And then you realize that revenue's not that's not the thing to chase at all.
Absolutely
it's
not.
We want to focus on how do we make this as profitable as we can, so we can pay our employees above market salary, so we can go to things like our 4-day work week, half a year, do all of those kind of things. And without being focused on profit, with just being focused on the top line revenue, you don't achieve those kind of things. At least that's what we found.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And that's where I really do think that's where Intact is going to come into play big time, is just having that ability. I've already started, creating dashboards, and which are just awesome, which would take me a lot of time that I'm working through 6 different spreadsheets with all these formulas that, hey, if one thing breaks in that spreadsheet, I'm screwed, right? But it's all living within Intact right now, and in some of those dashboards, and gives me the ability to, and will give my dad, better ability to see the nuts and bolts of what is going on in real time, and not a month or 2 later, because us accountants move slow every once in a while.
Well, it was one of the biggest reasons too why, because I remember you're like, well, what's the benefit of implementing right now? Because I think you're like, oh, we'll wait till September or something like that. Yeah. And I said, well, there's never a good time to start.
Yeah, right. And
one of your things,
I learned that big time.
Yeah, did you? I was going to go back to that. So does that hold true still?
Yeah, well, I think what I realized when we were onboarding is exactly what you said. There's not going to be a good time to do this, and I've said this to everybody here too. So there's not going to be a good time. We're going to have to do this in the next 10 years. I think I'm seeing the writing on the wall, and with some of the requirements that our clients have with these different reports, I'm just like, okay, either we do it now or we're going to have to figure out a solution in the next 10 years. Well, I've got more time than ever right now. So we might as well do it right now and reap the benefits.
Absolutely. So I'm glad that advice held true.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it really comes from my dad. I mean, he wrote this article a long time ago about there's never the right time to implement. There's always an excuse. Like there's always a reason why we shouldn't do it. But when you look at the upside, just like you had said, hey, we're bringing on more sophisticated clients. They have sophisticated reporting requirements. We've got to be able to turn those basically on a pin.
Yeah.
And without the ability to do that,
we don't get paid.
Yeah, right. You don't get paid. You might not win the job next time. All that kind of stuff, right?
Yeah, yeah, and just administratively, our staff, we've actually won General Contractor of the Year 2 years in a row. We've been nominated a ton of times. That's just around here in St. Louis, but we're very proud of that fact. And I think, I want to be, the best at, even administratively, for the owners, for the subcontractors, just being on time with everything, because their livelihood is them getting paid as well. So I want to pay as soon as we can and just have everything in order. And I think, a good ERP helps that a ton.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, and I think it obviously focusing on that stuff, not just, hey, we don't want to just be fiscally the best, right? We want our admin, we want our staff, we want everything to be the best. Focusing on that too gives everybody here a purpose too, I'm sure.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. One of the things that we were able to do as we implemented, and more so at the back end too, once we were better able to understand some of these responsibilities and duties and workflows are changing a little bit. So we were able to sit down, get together, and just outline all internal controls and procedures and basically rewrite it, right, for what makes sense for today. And having that transparency is huge.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So what's the one thing about working with your dad that pisses you off the most? We don't agree on everything. Yeah.
No, we are. Our doors are right next to each other, so there's some days where we go head on, but I think it's all with respect. And the next day, either one of us will come in and kind of eat crow and say,
"You're right."
You're right. Usually it's me.
Yeah.
I'm still learning, but usually it's me. But
the same exact way.
Yeah. Like, I get it.
And usually I'm like, no, that won't work.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like lessons of being a visionary in a way.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. But
that was just more of an icebreaker than anything else. But so. Tell me about the experience of deploying Intacct, of implementing Intacct with Bankert.
Yeah, so it's, you guys have obviously spent tons of time, tons of resources, tons of money into this because from start to finish, everything is perfectly thought out, from the video series, that you got to take and all the checkpoints that you have. You go through it, and I think at first it's like yeah, it's a little slow, and you can go at your own pace too. But we wanted to be on the same page, so at first it was a little tough because one person was going on a vacation one week and then the next week, and so we get through it, and then you kind of get into the nuts and bolts, and then you're like, holy cow, like this is the new system, like. We're actually working in the new system and you're able to customize it and everything. But the big plus to the whole thing is just your people. Everybody that we've worked with has been unbelievable. I would consider basically every single one of them an extension of our own staff. I think my wife even knows a lot of your employee names because I'm like, oh yeah, I gotta call him or call her. So No, it's been a great experience, and we're very grateful for all the help throughout the whole process.
That's awesome. Well, we spent so much time on, you're right, curating the deployment system and making it happen.
It's obvious,
and thank you for that. Yeah. But it would never be in place without our folks. And when my dad first came in and had this vision of, we need to have repeatable processes. We need to have a proven process. We need to, have a guarantee, a fixed price implementation. There's no change orders, et cetera. When he came in with that vision, we had 90% of our staff turnover because they just weren't on board.
Yeah, right. Yeah, there's a huge change, I'm sure, culturally.
Massive change because, before we would have assigned you with a consultant. You would have met with them once a week, maybe once every other week.
Yeah.
And you get a billable hours estimate from us, and that's how we would do it. A lot of that has now moved to subscription, but it's still the same, effective model.
Yeah, sure.
So, but Mike and Lisa and Boyan and the whole team that's on board with that program, and they saw the vision, they've put it together. They've all put this whole thing together, and it's been. I mean, I'm so grateful to them, but also just so excited for our company because these guys come in every day, and they say it on all of the content that we do too. They come in every day. They're genuinely looking forward to what they do.
Yeah, and I keep saying this, but it is obvious. Like it's not a knock at all. I mean, these guys they care, and I think we were talking earlier off camera too, but. Their days are ruined if they can't help you, and you feel that, and you appreciate that,
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So a lot of people say, it's standardized or it's a template-based thing or it's, you don't get as, it's a self-implementation. Did you get that impression?
No, not at all. And well, there's, I understand where someone would come from to say that, but why would you want it any other way? Why would you want someone else to build you the system when you've got to run it? You've got to manage it, right? So when you're in the system doing the work and working hand on hand with the consultants, with you guys, I mean, that's what you want because, at the end of the day, I have to be the one to understand it all.
Yeah.
Right. You guys are always going to be there to help, but at the end of the day, I'm the one that has to, take on that burden, right? Exactly. So I wouldn't want it any other way.
That's awesome. I think, that's I think the hesitation for some people on our process is just simply that they want a system to be set up for them, and they want to be trained on that system, and then that's it. You obviously kind of came from that with 300. You didn't implement it originally, so you were trained on it at some point.
Yeah, right.
And your knowledge probably only went a surface level with it.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, that was the big thing that I realized, partially in the beginning, but wholeheartedly now is being in there on the ground floor and creating the system as we need it is incredibly beneficial, and I understand 200 times more about the whole ecosystem now than I did before.
So are you excited for the AI stuff that's coming?
I am. Who knows where it's going to take us, but, we utilize it here and there just randomly, but I'm really excited to see what Sage can do and bring to the table. I just know that keeping track of what they're doing, I know that it's not going to be one of those things that falls behind, right? Yeah. That I'm in with, the leader, right? And so whatever they do, I'm following, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, they spent so much time creating what they call Sage Copilot, and a lot of those features are now coming out of the early adopter phase and into the general release. So we're going to start seeing some of that stuff come out this year, and I'm excited for you to take advantage of it because, well, now you can.
Yeah, no, I'm super excited. Yeah.
We actually had a customer the other day. This was probably cut out, but they said, "Hey, we're really interested in hearing about this AI stuff for Sage 300."
Not quite 300.
We had to inform them that not going to be there.
Yeah.
So, well, I'll ask you this one last question.
Yeah.
Are you happy you did it?
I absolutely am. Like I said, we could have waited, but we're going to reap the benefits from doing it, earlier than we would, before. So I'm very happy.
Cool. Well, Chris, thanks so much.
All right.
Man.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Take care.